Hey everybody, Mark Agnesi here for Gibson TV. Today, I'm off the beaten path and way down south in Atlanta, Georgia, on my way to see my buddy guitarist, Charlie Starr. Now, Charlie first burst onto the scene with his band Blackberry Smoke way back in 2000, and ever since, they've been making hit records and touring the world. In those travels, Charlie's managed to amass one incredible collection of vintage guitars, all with one rule in mind. Every guitar is meant to be played on stage. What you're about to see may shock you. This is the collection of Charlie Starr. We're here, brother Charlie.
Yeah.
What's up, dude?
Good to see you, man.
Thanks for having us in the house of Blackberry Smoke today.
Yeah, thanks for coming. You guys made it look a lot better in here.
I mean, it's like full-on museum mode right now. This is great.
It is. You want to talk about us? Here's a bunch of us.
I know you don't get many days off, so I appreciate you spending this one with us to talk about some guitars.
I mean, it's either hang with you and talk about guitars or do things around the house for my wife.
Think about guitars. Well, let's start at the beginning here, because when do you remember as a kid first noticing guitars?
Yeah, my dad still is a bluegrass guitar player, and he loved D28s and D18s and all manner of acoustic guitars. He's an acoustic guy, and he would come home from work, no matter how tired he was, he would pick up the guitar and sing songs to me. Not a lead player either. He's
just a rhythm guy.
Strumming chords and singing songs. It's all about the song with him. And he would sing Wreck of the Old 97 and Blue Moon of Kentucky and all these songs that he loved. And I loved just that whole thing. He's like a one-man band to me. And so I was constantly banging around his D28, and he'd be like, whoa, 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 let me get you your own guitar. So at 6 years old, he bought me a little nylon string, cheap guitar.
Yeah.
I think it was just to see if it was going to stick, like we were talking about, and it stuck.
What was the first real guitar that you had growing up?
I saved up, it was a few $100s, and bought a 1978 SG with the harmonica bridge and horrible. No, I'm not poo-pooing on all of
that
1978,
whole era,
but this one in particular I wanted it to be great.
Yeah.
Because it was within reach, and I was able to save up $300 and get it. But it just never was great, and I didn't know anything about setups or fretwork, and I did all the tinkering myself at the time, and it fretted out at every fret, and I think I had friends that were like, "What's wrong with your guitar?" That was my entry to Gibson.
Yeah.
There.
How old were you when you got that?
15. The SG, I actually started playing in cover bands that would play in bars. And then at 17, I found a 1985 pearl white Les Paul Custom with the flip-out tuning keys, the total Randy Rhoads guitar. Yeah. Which is funny because I'm an Eddie guy. When we were kids, you had to be an Eddie guy or a Randy guy, and I was an Eddie guy. Much better guitar. Didn't fret out.
Well, you bring up Eddie. Who were the guys growing up that you were going after? Who were the big influences when you were young?
Well, Eddie was a big one, because I think I was right around 11 years old when 1984 came out, and it made such an impression. And that quickly turned into the first record for me.
Back to one. Yeah.
Yeah, and such an impression that Eddie Van Halen made on all of us kids. It was like Michael Jordan playing the guitar. He was such a hero. Yeah. With that big grin on his face and the great songs. But then after that, I really got into, I think because of my dad, I got into rootsier music and the blues. And my mom loved the Stones, still does. And I would wear out her Hot Rocks cassette. So then all of a sudden I wanted Honky Tonk Women. I wanted to be able to make that sound. And then later, much later, you learn about Open G and things like that.
All the Keith stuff. Yeah.
All the Keith stuff. There was a band from Atlanta called the Georgia Satellites, who, Keep Your Hands to Yourself, obviously was a huge hit.
The big hit, yeah.
But he made me want a Les Paul Jr. And it was not really as much Leslie West as it was Rick Richards. Yeah.
Croc case, might as well, if we're going to get started, I have a feeling we're going to see a few of these today.
Protected by alligators, but that's
cardboard.
Cardboard alligators, that's my favorite. It's my spirit animal.
Whose idea this was, but
yeah.
You got the form right.
Yeah.
Does the lid stay on?
Probably not.
No?
I mean...
Oh, but look at that guitar.
Yeah.
Oh, baby. Well, I have a feeling this is the first of many. What do we got here?
55, This is the oldest Junior I have. Had a 54 for a minute and discovered I don't prefer the 54 neck angle. This is a really good one. It's not terribly light. It's a really good sounding.
It doesn't bug me.
But you know what's unique about this guitar for me is stainless steel frets. When we were talking about frets, I've always said no to that question when given the option, would you like stainless steel? I say, hell no. Why would I want that? And I got this with the stainless steel frets, unbeknownst to me. I can't tell a difference.
Really?
But I've never played this guitar with nickel frets, so I don't know the difference, but it sounds damn good and it doesn't bother me, and these will last forever, so.
What's your beef with the 54s and why do you like the 55s better? You're talking about neck angle and bridge angle. For those who don't know, explain that a little bit.
As far as my opinion, which is worth a penny, the 54 neck angle was, I guess, what you would say is a shallower neck angle. Not as
much tilt back.
It just makes a difference in the playability of the guitar to me. It also puts the strings closer to the top of the pickup, which my palm will always on that.
Start hearing the chunk on the magnets. Yeah.
Yep. Some 55s I've seen too. This bridge post would almost be
touches that treble side of the pickup
cover, which that gives you a brighter tone across the board because it's the fulcrum there is so close to the pickup.
Yeah.
That's just me. I've only had one 54. Maybe there are others that are fantastic, but it was a first-year guitar. And
same thing with first-year Les Paul Gold tops.
Yeah.
Shallow neck angle, and by the second year.
Yeah. Boy, they had it.
We got it now. Dialed in by the second year. Is this Music City or is this
this is Mojo Axe.
Mojo Axe.
I think most of the juniors that I take on the road, which are all of them, have been converted to those, the compensated G-string. As you know, all these guitars the bridges were designed to have a wound G-string.
Wound G, yeah. Really a great design. From a foot away, you would never even tell that there's compensation on there, but it really...
For all the screw counters, though, all of my bridges and tuners are either in the case or in my underwear drawer. Usually, my tech he complains about vintage tuners because they're so stiff, and sometimes there's some slippage.
Yeah.
Which is why on so many player grade juniors, they got Grovers on them.
You know where this one came from? Do you remember?
I think it came from Pennsylvania. There's a whole population of these guitars in the Heartland that were bought as student model guitars, like you said, and put under beds, and people at that time going to war.
Everything we're looking at today has seen the road, right?
Yeah.
Nothing is too precious to keep at home.
No, not of mine.
Not original hard case, but a proper hard case. I'm assuming this one has seen its fair share of road.
It's, an ocean and
freight liners and all sorts of stuff. Oh, there it is.
56. At least the wood is 56.
What else from this is 56?
Well, nothing.
Even pickup's been changed?
That pickup, I thought that was the original pickup for a lot of the years that I owned this guitar. Fella that was fretting it, pulled it out, was cleaning it up and said, that's an old Duncan P90.
Really? But this is the one that started it all, right? This is the first Junior.
I got it in 1993, late 93, early 94, I forget, right around that time. And when I got it, a Bigsby had just come off it.
Yeah.
It made its way around tons of players in Atlanta, but it was initially Rick Richards' guitar. And there's a few videos on YouTube that you can see of him playing it at clubs around Atlanta.
Now, what did it look like when Rick had it?
It was shiny, but I'm told,
obviously refin. And it looks like maybe a couple of times.
I'm told
it was refinned.
The guy's name who refinished it here in Atlanta in the late 70s, early 80s, and it was a tobacco guitar. Headstock break twice over.
During your time or
nope,
before your time?
Before my time. You look in the certain light, you can see the two graphite studs going
hard up the back.
But I put those letters on. It was sort of a tribute to Ernest Tubb because he would put thanks on the back of his guitar. And I spelled y'all wrong. And I remember it was before I was sober, and I did it in a dressing room somewhere at a club. But I vaguely remember trying to remember where the apostrophe would go. And somebody walked into the dressing room right after I did it and was like, that ain't right, it goes there. And I was like, oh yeah, but it's all right, too late. So that's how you judge your southernness, ladies and gentlemen, is whether or not you know how to spell y'all correctly.
Let me see this thing. Now,
not a light guitar either.
what did it look like when you got it? How much of this is you?
80% or maybe 85% of that is me.
So this was a black, just a fully black guitar when you bought it.
Yeah, this is all me. It was already starting to come off in spots. A buddy of mine put a sticker of a pinup girl on it at one point without even asking if that was cool. Yeah. And I pulled it off and then took some of that. But it was just years of smoky bars and late nights. And
now, has Rick ever contacted you on this guitar trying to get it back from you? Or?
No, we've spent time talking about it. Just a couple times been like, man, I sure would like to have that guitar back. But he told me once, because I asked him, did he use it on any of their records? And he said, I used it on the early recordings that wound up as Keep the Faith, the Satellite's first EP, but he couldn't remember which songs. He wound up with TV Juniors, that was his favorite thing, but he said he never could keep his guitar in tune. I've never had a problem.
But the Badass was on there when?
Not this one. Another one was. This is a repro.
Oh, okay.
The original one, I've still got it. It's covered in rust and barnacles.
Man, stories it could tell. That's your whole career on this thing.
Well, in the late 90s, Britt, Richard, and myself were in another band, and we made a record with Danny Korchmer. And I had this guitar, and I took it to New York to the studio, and I pulled it out of the case, and it was the only guitar I owned at the time. And he laughed and said, what is that? And I said, it's my guitar, you know. And we started to track, and he was letting me play through a little Tweed Harvard, which I was blown away. I'm like, this is unheard of. And before I could even plug this guitar in, he handed me his really clean TV Junior and said, play a real guitar, you know, a real Junior. And I played it, and it was okay. And I could kind of see him kind of wondering. And then he said, get your guitar. And I plugged it in and strummed a G chord, and he goes, you stay on your guitar.
Nice.
It's got a thing. Sometimes they have a thing.
But this is the Desert Island.
It's the best sounding one I have, and it's just something about that piece of wood.
Yeah. That's killer, dude. That's killer. When did collecting start becoming a thing for you? At what point in your career did the guitar start to amass?
Not until much later. The first, I bought that old black Les Paul Jr. at the behest of a good friend who worked at a great music store in downtown Atlanta called Clark Music. And he decided, and that was Rick Richards' guitar.
That was Rick's guitar, right?
Yeah. And so our friend Ted Lathang, he decided I needed that guitar. He was right, because I bonded with it instantly. And played that as really the only vintage guitar that I owned for a lot of years, because I was, scraping up money to make ends meet. And then as Blackberry Smoke became a thing, and it became our living, and then that affords you the ability to go looking after guitars.
Speaking of buying and trading, is it still like that? Do you let them go still? Are you willing to trade off a couple of things to get something else, or are you at that point now in your career where you're trying to hang on to everything and just add new stuff?
I have way more seller's remorse than buyer's remorse. I mean, but there are some, like I was talking to our mutual friend Keith Nelson. It's like I had this really clean guitar that brought me no joy, because we play them, you know, like they don't. Rarely do they sit in a case at home, under a bed or in a locker. I like to take them out. You'll see that all these guitars have got, the original strap buttons are pulled off and they have strap locks.
You use them.
Take the tuners off, and they're packed up because they need to be able to tune well. And
now, one of the things that we have in common is our love of single pickup guitars. You probably love them a little more than I do, but tell me about why Les Paul Juniors, Esquires, Firebird Is. What is it about single pickup guitars that's different?
I think it's that black guitar that I bonded with.
Just kind of set up the whole.
So completely, it's set up
the whole thing.
Yep. And I started to seek out more of that, and because they're all so different. Of all the juniors I have, they're like snowflakes. I don't think there are two that I go, oh, this sounds just like that one. But enough of the same foundation to where the idea is there, the feel is there. I caught myself, then playing 2 pickup guitars, and then I'd be like, I don't ever flip to the neck pickup.
What's the point?
It forces you to play, to try different things with the volume and tone knob.
Actually engage
Yeah.
with the guitar a little more.
Where you strum, where you rake the strings, how close you are or how far you are from the bridge. Every night when we play, and I don't know why, it makes me smile. I'll reach back and like, oh, now and it's just me like entertaining myself. Like, now it sounds like a Telecaster. Oh, look at, oh, now it doesn't. Oh, what's it, I love it. I just can't get enough,
Another one of these cardboard cases.
Little dusty, little dry rot. 57.
Oh yeah, that's clean too. Also,
Kind of heavy.
kind of heavy.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something to that heavy junior thing. What attracted you to this one?
This one, I got 2 at the same time. Joe B said, 2 pairs and a spare.
Yeah.
No, I got a good deal on 2 that were funny. The weight on them is completely different. The burst, completely different. This one's a little short with a little more overspray.
Yeah, really just a perimeter.
And the other one that I didn't bring today, but it comes in a lot more, and it's a lot darker, almost black out here.
Yeah, this is what I think of 57. This is kind of that perimeter burst.
And look how far away from the pickup that bridge is.
Yeah.
That's
57 is when it really settled in, I feel like.
They perfected it.
Yeah.
It did not have an original wiring harness in it. And it was a newer repro that you can buy already soldered and wired with new caps. And when I would get to the top of the volume knob, it did something that I didn't like. It did a really bright, like between 8 and 10. So I would play it on 8 just because I didn't like it.
At 10, yeah.
And it started to bother me, and my OCD took over, and I was like, I can't have this. This sucks. Called a friend and said, can you find me a junior harness? And I need a real one. And he's like, they've gotten expensive now. They're like $400 and $500. I'm like, I don't want to pay that. And he called me a couple months later and said, I just got a wiring harness from a lap steel, which is the same damn thing.
Oh, the same pots.
And it's from a 57. It's 57 pots.
Yeah.
With a Bumblebee. And I put it in, and it was instantly right.
It's fun. Everybody talks about this pickup, that pickup. The difference that capacitor and the pots can make to the pickup that's already in there is mind-blowing when you hear it. It doesn't get talked about.
I figured that it's because these guitars have so few components. Every one is so damn important.
Yeah.
And you have to do 500 and 250. It can't, it's...
With all of these juniors, what makes you pick one over the other in the set? Are there certain just tones that lend themselves to different songs, or is it the guitar you wrote it on, or?
Sometimes it's a guitar I tracked it with.
Yeah.
Oh, and this is funny. I had just gotten this guitar. It's pretty clean.
Yeah, I know it's in great
Pretty
shape.
clean example. And we were playing St. Louis at the pageant. Our friend Richard Fortas came, and he got up and played Used to Love Her with us. And the next day I was like, what is that? And I've never spoken about this to Richard before, but Richard, I'm proud to know that you left your mark.
Way to go, dude. Yeah. Good stories. Killer guitar.
Yeah.
Newer hard case.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a feeling it might be more of the same.
Close.
Oh yeah. TV model. Who would have thought a yellow guitar?
I mean, why is
So cool.
Why is it so great? Limed mahogany.
That's a nice one.
This one is all original.
Yeah.
And it's 58, so it's
58 single cut. That's
late
cool.
late in that game. It doesn't weigh much.
Definitely the lightest one we felt so far, and that neck is just awesome. Refret, obviously. Now these recently have just gone
Yeah.
absolutely berserk. When did you get this?
Probably about 5 years ago.
Before pandemic pricing, pre-pandemic pricing.
Before it went completely nuts. And already then, they were more than their tobacco.
Yeah, they're always
sisters.
going to be more than the Sunburst ones. But
I had a 57 special that I let go and put this one in its place.
Yeah. Great
guitar, fantastic guitar.
Yeah. Where'd this come from?
Keith Nelson.
Oh, this was one of Keith's?
Yeah.
Well, another guy that knows juniors.
Yeah, and he, and this one, it being such the deep sort of
it's
yellow, he called it Mean Mr. Mustard.
Yeah. Sometimes they kind of are very weedy colored. Sometimes once you get into the 59s and the double cuts, they really go to that kind of pale. This is like that perfect shade of mustard yellow. Yeah. It's just perfect. So when do you reach for the TV?
I used this on our last album, You Hear Georgia. I played it on a few solos, and on our new record, played it on a couple of songs. I've only had it in the amount of time that we've made these two records, but the first time I plugged it in, and I was using a Marshall, a 50-watt JMP, and it sounded like Out to Get Me.
That snarly.
Yeah, and I didn't even say it. I think it was Benji. He was like, damn, that sounds like Guns N' Roses. That sounds like Out to Get Me. I said, that's not a bad thing to sound like.
Yeah, it does it for me. Is this the only original TV in the collection, or are there more?
Yeah, this is the only original. This one and 2 refins.
The 2 refin ones. It's just the coolest guitars ever. If you don't have a Les Paul Jr.,
I don't like you.
You're not our friend. You need to go get one, and then we can talk.
It's not that I don't like you. We don't trust you.
Yeah. If you can't get it done with one pickup, you're not going to get it done anyway. That's the business right there. That's a really great guitar. This is seen road, obviously.
Yeah.
Got a nice scuffed up case. All right, what do we? Oh, and we're into the double cuts.
59.
Keeping it chronological. I like that.
Yeah.
Still got some cherry on it.
Yep. Mojo Axe again.
Yeah.
In between light and heavy, it seems pretty
normal. For people who don't understand, when I say still got some cherry on it, look at the back.
Yeah.
And then you look at the front. This is where all that UV has kind of started to make that red start to dissipate to a more brown color. Obviously, the back of the guitar doesn't get it as bad. You can still see a much more vibrant cherry color here. And right when you get to the side, you see the transition.
Flip-flop. It's like
it's like one of those cool cars with the flip-flop.
New Cadillac. Got a good neck.
Yeah. That's a 59 neck right there. What makes you go double cut over single cut?
When I want it to hang weird on my body because
just get all. When I really want to fight it.
When I really want it to feel awkward. No, I mean, I guess there are just so many reasons why guitar would be different as far as the tonality, but I really think there's something to be said about this neck joint, about where it joins the body, and it doesn't make it floppy. It feels long as a canoe paddle, but if you want to get up there to that note,
a little easier on the double cut.
There you go. I love this one. This is a really, really good pickup. It's really close to that favorite black one.
Where did this one come from?
Pennsylvania as well.
Really? Same spot?
Same spot, same guy. Crazy how, speaking of neck angle, I don't know if you can see how high off the body.
That bridge is sitting.
Yeah, and it's not leaning forward, which is a great blessing too, because that's another aspect of these guitars. They all do that.
Yeah.
But not this one.
That's a healthy one. And that neck is just awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Personally prefer single cuts to double cuts, but when it's right, it's right.
Yeah.
That just everything about that is right.
And the round edge.
Yeah.
It's a little sleek. I had a good hard edge 58, let it go. Need it back.
Yeah. In TV.
That's right. In TV this time.
That's killer. Talk to me about your buying process. Is there a hit list? Charlie Starr hit list of what you're looking for? Are you just out on the road and stuff presents itself to you and you fall in love? How are you going about buying guitars these days?
I think there's usually a hit list, but that changes. And I don't know about you, but I'll get excited about something and then get obsessed with it and call all the people we know.
Yeah.
And then if there's not one available or not a good deal, that'll cool off and it'll change. But unfortunately for me, all of our friends always find a way.
It's an expensive group of friends
It is.
that we hang with sometimes.
It is.
People know people.
I should know better than try to keep up. But I love it. And I mean, I'm not a burst owner.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to even try to understand to me. I even talk to people, friends of ours who have them, like, that's tough. That's tough to wrap your brain around to me. But
I mean, are you out on the road chasing it down in every city you go to?
Yeah.
Your pawn shops, guitar stores, anything off limits or everywhere you're going?
Every day and he's such an enabler, Benji Shanks. He's like, got his phone out and Craigslist and pawn shops and guitar store. Come on, let's go. It's Valentine's Day. Should we maybe look for some chocolates for our wives? Nah. Well, but look at this Junior I found.
We just talked about burst. I know you've played a lot of bursts. Will there ever be a day where Charlie Starr has a burst in his collection?
I hope so. I mean, as much as I scoff,
Yeah. And if so, is that burst going on the road with you?
It's tough to say. A show that we played with Skinnerd and Keith Nelson came out, and he had Godzilla at the time.
That was a killer guitar.
Yeah, and he said, I'm bringing Godzilla. You want to play Godzilla in the show? It was like, okay. And that guitar was so clean. And I thought, I have buttons on my shirt.
It's not fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so stressful. And he was like, who gives a damn? Play it, And it was like holding it out like this. So I guess that would be part of the thought process would be like, well, how clean is it? And
yeah. I think that's the reason why he got
I think he did. I think
rid
the
of it.
stress is like, I can't enjoy it because it's so clean. Cesar brought his burst to the Ryman, and then also the Blessing burst was there. We had 2 bursts in one night. Marcus King came, he played one, I played one. And I mean, that was stressful too. I was like, hey, what are we doing, And but at the end of the day, it's our front of house guy with Cesar's guitar. He was like, wow, okay, that guitar just changed the sound of the entire band.
Gemini is a good guitar.
Yeah.
That's a really, really killer burst.
It's amazing what happens with those instruments. It's why they are what they are.
It's not just hype.
It is not.
It is a real thing.
It is a real tangible thing.
Speaking of the Ryman, I just have to tell you, and my wife could not come, and she recommended I bring my 8-year-old son, Nico, and that was his first rock show. And I just have to say, you completely ruined my kid now forever, because he shows up and he gets his VIP badge and he's walking around thinking he's hot shit, and everybody's like, oh, it's good. And then the text comes and it's like, hey, come out to the bus and the thing. So now we're on the bus and Elliot's there, we're passing guitars around and stuff. And now
Chicken wings and Topo Chicos.
Because he says to me, hey, Guns N' Roses is coming.
Yeah.
You think we're going to hang out on Uncle Slash's bus? It's like, okay, first off, Uncle Slash, but second, I don't think that's going to happen every night. But he had a great time. That was his first rock show.
Dad,
you guys killed it. Another croc case, different shape.
Yep.
I like these too.
Good eye.
Oh, yeah. Les Paul SG Jr. That's cool. So this would make this what? 62-ish one? 62. Not a blade neck. Some of those 62s still have those paper thin 61 necks. Man.
That one's the wide, Daddy, though.
Yeah, that looks great. Okay, more P90 talk.
Yep. Now,
tell me about 60s P90s over 50s P90s.
I believe 60s P90s are brighter and hotter.
Definitely got more winds.
They got some more bark to them, which is when you're getting up in there wanting to play some Sabbath, they give you that ability.
I don't know if that's for a reason with, they had a body with less mass. They figured they needed to put more wraps on the pickup or what, but they definitely have more juice than the 50s P90s do.
I was talking to a guy that we know that said he made a trip to Kalamazoo in 1970. And he said, I watched some ladies winding pickups and they were sitting and it looked like sewing machine operation. And he said,
still kind of does.
Said winding machine, there was a foot brake. And he said, as the machine counted to 1800 or whatever the magic number might have been, the foot brake got hit. But if they were busy talking to their neighbor,
smoking cigarettes and doing the whole thing,
there was a cigarette being smoked or somebody getting chewed up with some good gossip, they might have gotten 1925 or something. Yeah. It barks, so somebody was really getting talked about.
The neck has lost all of the cherry.
It's almost a TV yellow neck.
Yeah. That's great.
But
what makes you pick these up? When you just got to get nasty, this is going to get nastier than the...
Yeah, we've got a couple of songs that are way down, for us anyway, and this one, I recorded a song that we have called Like an Arrow on it, and it's tuned to open C sharp.
Very Sabbath.
I don't know why I chose this little thin guitar for that tuning, because when you play these guitars, also the neck joint here, if you move your hand quickly, you hear it go, I mean, it's like a crazy vibrato. But this guitar loves to be in that tuning, and it sounds pretty ominous. And I love the knob change then.
The reflectors, man.
Yeah, there was some good stuff going on.
Yeah.
Pick guards that want to lift at every edge.
A little bit. No cracks yet, though. It's still staying down.
It's all intact. Lightning bolt.
Yeah, first year lightning bolt.
Speaking of the list again, I need a 61. It's at the
slant.
angle. Yeah.
Any of you Blackberry Smoke fans out there with 61 Les Paul SG Juniors?
Yeah. Give me a call. Hit me up on the internet.
Soon enough, they'll be in a town by you. They never stop touring. You can find them. So I'm guessing this is like 64, 65-ish.
64.
64.
You're a man who knows his stuff, Mark.
Know my cardboard. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's my favorite color for these.
Yeah.
Polaris White SG Junior.
Now this one is
Mint minus.
Yeah.
We'll call it.
This one's it's been there.
Holy shit. Yeah, it's been there and back. What the hell does...
I don't know. I don't know if
It's
it was
like-
a guy was playing it at the Renaissance Festival and he had like a gauntlet on.
Or it was like one of those, some
Chainmail.
kind of old capo that had something
That's
and he just
right.
moved it up and down the neck. But there was like,
Albert Collins.
there's literal tire tracks
Yeah.
down the entirety of this neck.
I would say that was a label maker.
At some point, there was some kind of label on there.
Somebody's address, maybe. Yank that off.
Hasn't yellowed out that much though. It's still staying pretty white. Oh, and that's flowed out of your hands. Other than the obvious coolest guitar ever, what attracted you to this?
Well, it was a good deal.
Love that.
Yeah.
We love that.
First and foremost. And then just seeing that, you know, it always makes my brain go to, that's going to be a great sounding guitar because somebody has played the shit out of it.
Yeah.
And I was right.
Yeah.
And it sounds angrier than the 62.
Really?
Again, it's different, you know, than that other one too. It's just got a different rainbow.
Well, he said there's so few things that everything makes a difference.
Yeah.
And if somebody sweat a bunch on this pickup and the magnets started doing whatever they're doing, or, you know, that cap has leaked out, whatever it's leaked out, and now it's putting out at a different range than it's supposed to, and it makes that pickup do it's all alchemy.
The day after I got this guitar, I played it at a show. Was very excited because it's the first white guitar I owned since I was a teenager.
Yeah, white custom.
Talking to my friends, I'm like, you know, the white ones sound different. I'm like, that's a crazy idea. But anyway, I put a picture of it up online. Was like, oh, I'm really excited. Check it out. This 1964 SG Junior. And a guy on Instagram was like, hey, Charlie, when and where did you get that guitar? Because I had one that was stolen about 10 years ago, and I've never seen another white one.
They didn't make them. It's a one-off.
So I was like, well, so I answered him and was like, well, they made more than one, but you may want to go talk to Jake E. Lee, because the first time I ever saw one was the Shot in the Dark video, Ozzy Osbourne, and he probably stole your damn guitar.
And I mean, if that pickup's hot enough for Jake E. Lee to play
That's right.
Ozzy on, it's hot enough for you too.
Yeah, my son taught me how to play Bark at the Moon correctly on this guitar. So for that right there was a reason to purchase it, was to have
worth the price of admission
to
right
have
there.
my progeny play Bark at the Moon on it.
That's how you want to find them right there. That's as cool as it gets. Crown case
Yeah.
of the non-cardboard variety.
Pink.
Oh, yes. I remember this guitar.
So this one has a story. I don't know it to be fact. They say that this guitar started life as a 53 gold top Les Paul model, and that it was sent back maybe to Gibson, to Kalamazoo, to be refinished in black, given this Bigsby, given a bumblebee in here with a gray tiger, given a serial number,
57 serial number.
I guess that's the story. Now, this, as if that's not a cool enough story, talk to some people who were like, Gibson didn't do that. And then other people say, yeah, they did. Sure they did repairs, and they did
still do
refinish work.
Yeah.
I've always thought by looking in this case that Bigsby's been rubbing right there for a long time. It's been been doing its thing.
This has been on for a minute. Yeah.
So when I first got it, it had a shaved down ABR1 that was pretty wrecked. So this is a repro.
Because this would have been just a wrap tail on a fifth. So when they put the Bigsby on, they had to put some sort of
like the dog
tunematic on it. Yeah.
But whoever did it, and I don't know if they did it in 1957, maybe at Gibson, that ABR1 that was sort of shaved down. Who knows between that time and if you look closely in the light, there's a hole that was filled in the middle of the headstock. It's a headstock repair also.
Oh, yeah.
So there's been some refinish work. But somebody decided it should be a 7-string guitar. So there's a little...
Oh, there's an extra notch on the Bigsby.
Little nodule right there to hook a string on. And then it came up and had an extra tuner in there.
That would be to add like another B string? Those aren't even the octave strings.
I don't even know. Unless they were like, okay, well, we're going to go to make this an extra low B, we'll add, it'll be, E, B, G, D. So who knows?
Crazy.
But then somebody thought better of it and were like, this is stupid. And they put it back.
So when we were hanging at the Ryman that night, this was the guitar we were passing around on the bus, you mean Elliot?
Yeah, I had
Did this come through Elliot, or did this?
No, it came from Ricky Skaggs.
This was
Thank you, Ricky. And it was somebody that he had known. It was a lady, I think that he said that he goes to church with. It belonged to her brother.
No, I mean, that's a very old refin because it is checked and it looks exactly like it should.
Yeah.
The finish looks like Gibson did it, and with the white cream plastics on there.
I had these out, and there's gold in the cavities, just judging by the top and those big old knobs.
Yeah.
Big old early 50s knobs.
And great dish, too. Really pronounced belly.
And
so this has got to be one of the newer acquisitions.
Well, I've had it about 7-8 years.
Oh, wow. Okay, so this has been around. Tell me about Bigsby's on Les Pauls.
This one, I never touch it because
it's a shallow neck angle still.
So I stay far, far away from it, or else it just is going to go out of tune. Oh, not to mention, somebody played Pin the Tail on the Donkey.
On the output jack.
With that.
3 different placements.
I don't know if you can see that, but it's been all over the place back there.
Stories. Good stories.
Be boring if it was brand new looking, wouldn't it?
And gold. Yeah. That's great. Another roadworthy aftermarket case.
This one might be the most interesting story, and it is a love story. It is a 1958 Les Paul Custom.
When 2 PAFs are not enough.
That's right. When you need that extra push over the cliff.
Add the 3rd PAF.
This was back around the time of our Whippoorwill album, which was our 3rd album. And so we got to do a lot of cool things on the tour and the subsequent promotion for that record. And one of those things was playing Jay Leno. I got an email, which I still have, from a guy after we were on Leno that said, hey, I really enjoyed that performance. I like that song. I like your band. I'm putting you in my will. I'm going to be leaving you my 58 Les Paul Custom. To which I replied, that's crazy. Why would you do that? Very nice to meet you, but why would you do that? So I didn't hear anything for 4 or 5 years. He said, I want you to have the guitar now.
Wow.
So he sent it to me, and it was sort of disassembled at the time. He had dressed it up to look like Frampton's guitar.
Covers off.
Yeah.
White plastic.
But he said, I'm going to send you all the parts that I have left. And by that, he meant that he had gotten rid of the PAFs. These are actually Tyson tone. He had Duncan's in there, but they had the covers off. And Bobby Tyson made me some pickups to go in it. But he had the pickup rings, the stop bar, the bridge, the knobs, the pick guard, the truss rod cover. And these are repro Grovers. But all this other stuff.
It's a really clean guitar.
Well, it's a refin.
Oh, it is. It's a really good refin.
It is. But it's a refin from the 70s. He said, I bought the guitar in 1967 when he was 18 years old. And he said, saw an ad in the paper, said, Gibson Les Paul, $350. Checked it out, an old man had it, and he said, I bought it. And he said, I came down to Florida, moved to Florida, started playing in bars. And he said, we opened for the Allman Brothers in 1971. And he said, Dwayne Allman played it.
Really?
He said he wanted to buy it because he wanted a triple pickup guitar. At that point, he had the gold top.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he had traded for the burst yet. So maybe it was 70 when the show was. Anyway, he said, I told him, no, I've had it. I love it. It's my guitar. I can't sell it. So he said, I thought it was a 59. And he said, Dwayne flipped it around and said, no, it's a 58. See, the first digit is an 8. Now, that's been restamped now, but he said he's the one who told me it was a 58, not a 59. A little bit after that, I saw Mick Ronson, David Bowie. So I stripped all the paint off the top of it.
As a lot of people did.
Yeah, and he said years later in the late 70s, I decided I wanted it black again, so he had it professionally restored to black.
If you're going to get a 50s Les Paul custom, being given one is a really good way about it.
Well, he has since passed on, and so...
Did you ever get a chance to meet him in person?
Never in person, just on the phone.
Wow.
But he was a great, sweet man. His name was Mick, and I don't name guitars, but I call this guitar Mick, because that was...
That's shit. And this one comes out too, right?
Yep, sure does.
Is there one that got away? You have remorse on anything in particular?
I've let a few things go that I wish I hadn't. I've been bumming lately about and it's not that hard to come by, but a really good hard edge 58 double cut that was really dark cherry red and hadn't browned at all, and I let that go. It was at a time where I thought, these are everywhere. And then now they're not everywhere.
They were.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
When I was still 19, 20 years old, I had a blonde 72 Telecaster with a Bigsby, but it was a really good one. It was really light, and the pickup was completely a canoe. It'd sway back, you know. I was playing a 50-watt JMP then, and would have to turn my cabinet to the wall in every bar that we played. But there was something magical that happened with that Telecaster, with that cabinet to the wall. It just filled up those little corner stages with magic. And maybe it's nostalgia, but it was my favorite Telecaster I think I've ever owned, and I sold it to make a car payment.
As you do sometimes.
And this is ridiculous, but I had a really good D35, and it was a gift from my dad. Bad marriage, bad divorce thing. I don't know where that guitar is. It was so that was kind of a bummer too, but sorry to bum you out, folks. It happens.
Black case. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's my favorite spec of the S335. What is this, 63, 64?
64.
64. That is my, here, grab that. That is my favorite feature set for an ES335 right there. Tell me about this. Where did it come from?
This one came from Louisville, Kentucky. A one-owner guitar. Guy's grandpa. Sat down and played it a lot. There's a nice little wear on his leg, and he just wore GC and D out.
Yeah.
And so when I got it, it was just thrashed.
You can see it on the board.
Yeah. And it looked like it had been outside in a barn when I got it. It was really dirty, and looked down in there at the sticker, and the guy who cleaned it up said, how was he able to get that bird to shit in the F-hole like that?
Well, that's where the tone comes from, though. Dude. The tone's in the bird shit, you know?
So this one sounds exactly like you think it would.
Yeah, cleaned up nice, too. It's still nice and cherry. Now, these are not factory brads for the custom-made plaque, but it seems like it's holding it down all right.
Yeah, it started to roll, you can see, probably from being outside in the barn.
In the barn. I'm taking it was also not in the case either.
Let me show you in here.
Oh, the neck, dude. It's gone. I love that.
In here we have
curly cable.
The cable. But this is my favorite part, is the bill of sale.
Oh, original receipts. Where'd you get it?
Dodd Music Center in Covington, Kentucky.
$300 bucks even. 55. Was that for the case?
I think so.
330.
Extra for the Bigsby. 55 for the Bigsby.
That was the markup for the Bigsby.
Yeah.
$330 for the guitar and the case. Man, we're from the wrong era, you know?
12 payments at $28 a month.
Take that, Sweetwater.
Yeah.
$28 a month?
Yeah. Beat that.
When do the 335s or the ES guitars replace the Juniors? When do these come out for you? Because I see you play them a lot.
Yeah. My friend Ray, he gave me a custom shop 345 as a birthday gift, right. That's number 2 extravagant gift. Yeah. I started playing that guitar on a few different songs and even wrote a couple of songs with that sort of feel. Yeah. And then so it was when this one became available or came into my life, I thought, well, got to have more of those too. They do a thing.
They definitely do a thing. When do you go for humbuckers? I mean, you got so many, between the Juniors and the Esquires and everything, it's a lot of single coil pickups. What makes you reach for a humbucker guitar?
It'll just be the song. There's a song we have called Waiting for the Thunder that is a hollow body song. Yeah. And it just doesn't feel right on a Junior. So,
with humbuckers as opposed to P90s, is there a reason to go either way for that too?
Well, that particular song, Waiting for the Thunder, has a humbucker lead, and it just has a little brighter snarl to it. And yeah. I really had a good time on our summer tour last year. We were out with the Allman Betts band, and Dwayne Betts, he was playing 64 335 that Dickie Betts owned, and I was playing this, and it felt pretty pimp to be playing too.
Especially original 64s.
Especially since he was playing Dickie Betts's.
Yeah, killer. God, I love those. One of those is in my future at some point. I don't know if I'll get the bird shit in the F-hole or not.
I mean,
if I'm so lucky.
I'm hoping you do.
Yeah, I am too. That's where the tone is. Another one of these black cases.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. One of the most overlooked and underrated guitars of the 60s, the Gibson ES 330.
65, early 65.
Still wide nut?
Good wide nut. We had made an album with Brendan O'Brien, our 4th album, called Holding All the Roses. We went out to L.A. to do guitar overdubs with him, and he has a Pelham Blue one.
Yes, he does.
A 64. And I played that guitar through his Blues Breaker, his original Blues Breaker, and I thought, that's the best sounding shit I've ever heard in my life. And even in the control room, or even sitting in there with the amp holding it, and this completely hollow thing is just going crazy. So it's an animal just moving in your hands. And I thought, I have to have one. And he said, well, good luck. You're not going to be able to play it on stage, not unless you fill it full of T-shirts. So, but he said, no, you have to have one, and it has to be, if you want what you're talking about, it has to be metal pickup cover era. So, 64, 65. He said,
65, you got mismatched parts. You got a nickel ABR1 with chrome covers and a chrome tailpiece, but you still got the wide nut, which is important. Still 1 11/16 at the nut. And it weighs 2 pounds. Everybody talks about Epiphone Casinos. This is like the only guitar that the Epiphone version seems to be more popular than the Gibson version, but they're identical guitars. 16 fret, neck joint. It's the ideal rock and roll rhythm guitar. Every 60s band seemed like one of the guys in the band was playing one of these.
Glenn Frey. Keith Richards playing one in Open G live at Hyde Park in 1969 through high watts. How the hell was he doing that? Like the talking about stuffing it, the whole idea of stuffing it is you don't want to do that because you don't want to stop the top from vibrating.
That's the magic of the tune. Yeah.
But I've tried to play this on stage with our band, who are not nearly as loud as far as stage volume as the Stones would have been in 1969.
At Hyde Park.
How did he do that? Yeah. But I did buy at one point some of those F-hole.
F-hole stoppers.
And it killed it. I just couldn't.
It takes the vibe away. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I only use this guitar to record, but I have used it. It's on a song that I wrote with Keith Nelson. "Run Away From It All" is one of our favorites. Yeah. Things that sound like a Junior that are not a Junior are all that guitar.
Is this guitar? And it's like the best couch guitar because it's just loud enough that you can.
It's just fantastic.
You don't have to plug it into an amp.
Yeah.
And
And Gary Clark Jr. swears by them too. Don't
sleep on the ES 330s out there. And they were totally undervalued. I don't know about that anymore. I haven't.
Completely hollow and lots of room to stash shit.
Yeah, this is the mule here going across the border. That's great.
Yeah.
Love an ES330. Rectangle case.
Huh?
That's something fresh.
Not a
Custom shop case, but not a custom shop guitar.
Not a custom shop guitar. Way better at protecting than the original case, which is in pieces, but.
And of course, just one pickup.
That's it.
What else do you need?
Well, with this one, you need a tone knob to be able to turn the tone.
Get that ice pick out of it a little bit. 64 Firebird I. Same year as Clapton's, if I'm not mistaken.
The bird is intact, and the pick guard is not cracked.
Is the headstock intact?
Yes, it is.
Now, this is a rare guitar right here. And a lot of it, as you already pointed out, is the damn case that these came in. I mean, you got all these banjo tuners hanging off the back, and that takes a bump.
Gone.
You know, they go.
That one is sort of an exception to the rule about touring because it won't fit comfortably in a guitar boat.
Yeah.
And so I don't tour with that guitar just because of the fear of
it's too nice now. Losing it. Yeah. Where did this come from?
From Texas.
Nice.
And somebody who owned it decided to put their Social Security number there over the serial number.
It's more important than the serial number.
Yeah.
Great weight.
Man, it's a good one. And I had that guitar fretted also because there was nothing left. And
hey, no binding. Who cares? What frets on it?
Yeah. And now it plays like nobody's business. And then it's just your choice. Do you want it to hang awkwardly here or here?
Awkwardly there. Yeah. But man, that can peel the paint off the walls.
Yeah.
Those pickups.
It'll take it there.
Especially the ones with just the one pickup. They, for whatever reason, just are bright guitars.
I will, the guy I bought it from, he said, you're going to want to run that always at 2 on the tone knob.
Just as a baseline.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where it starts. And it just breathes fire right there. But
I've got the Eric Clapton Crossroads.
Yeah.
One of these in my collection currently. And we nailed it. You gotta roll that tone knob down a little bit.
That's where it lives.
Yeah. Eat the stitching out of your Levi's, man.
And never let go of the neck.
Man, it's the coolest looking guitar from the 60s. I mean,
it is.
So cool. Another brown case, but this looks a little older. This looks like 40s brown case. Mm-hmm.
Lifton with gaff tape.
As you do.
No charge.
On the house. Let's see. Ooh, ES300.
ES300. I found this we were on an acoustic tour. It was a couple of months. A handful of years ago, and was out on safari, as you do, and went into a pawn shop. I believe it was Valparaiso, Indiana, and I saw this hanging on the wall and thought, well, I don't know a whole lot about this era of the ES guitars.
Clear knobs.
Clear knobs, 1P90. And so I got my little handheld computer out and did a bunch of cramming on these guitars and determined that it was an ES300 because of the logo, the strip logo,
crown,
the P90 and the parallelogram inlay.
17-inch lower bout.
The resource that I read said that, or the source that I read said that once the Florentine cutaway made its appearance, these guitars were all but forgotten.
Yeah.
People say, oh, I don't need that anymore. I can't get up there to the fancy notes. But I love this guitar, and I put flat wounds on it, did a podcast with Joe Bonamassa, and as he sat in his house, there were 2 hanging behind him. And I said, oh, look at there, I got one behind me too. He goes, yeah, I file those under the easy to buy, hard to sell category.
Yeah, it's a lost art, but historically cool. Fun with flat wounds. You need something to put flat wounds on.
Yeah.
This is the perfect guitar for that.
Pear Guy said he believes this is a real mahogany top with the thickness of it. I don't know. What's your take?
It's definitely, I feel like I can see some laminates.
Okay.
If you look in there, you can kind of see some plies, which most of the time, if it says ES on it, it's a ply top guitar. But it is a mahogany top, which most all the ply guitars we do are maple, poplar maple. So how's that P90 on the arch top treat you?
It's great. It is just that neck position. It's fantastic. Lends itself well to if you were going to play Move It On Over by Hank Williams Sr.
Yeah.
That was something that Kenny Vaughn said in an interview that I saw not long ago talking about country music in that era. And he's like, there were no country guitar players. All those dudes were jazz players, all of them.
Well, they weren't rock. There were no rock guitar players. Yeah. What the hell else were they?
Hillbillies and jazz cats. Hillbilly singers and jazz guitar players.
That's an album title right there. Hillbillies and Jazz Cats.
That's our new reality show.
Side project. What would you say the percentage of your collection is electric to acoustic?
Probably 60-40 electric to acoustic.
So, I mean, a good portion of what you have is acoustics. Let's talk about acoustic guitars for a little bit. Obviously, acoustic guitars have songs in them. What are you looking for when you pick up a flat top? Just
resonance and warmth. And it's a funny thing about old guitars and new guitars. They're so different. As far as acoustic guitars go, it's really a more tangible idea that time is such a factor. I'm a dead string guy too.
Really?
So is Dave Cobb. He's like, the only time you put a string on that acoustic guitar is when you break one.
Yeah.
It's the only, and I agree. My ears just don't prefer the new bright thing with an acoustic guitar. I think that's a reason I love J45 so much, is they have that thuddy dark.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful. I don't even know how to describe it, but the thud is just what it is, you know. But and even with that's such a thing with Gibson guitars, and even with SJ200s, that big thing. And then the little, which we'll see, you'll remember the little L00.
Love L00s.
It's a little guitar that sounds like a big guitar. Yeah. How did they do that? How did you do that?
It was the cheapest guitar in the catalog. Yeah.
And Gibsons have such a fingerprint with that tonality, with all the different models. I have a really great 62 country and western, wants to be a hummingbird, but it's just not quite as pretty.
Doesn't have the guard. Yeah.
But it's just got that connection to the human voice that's a real thing. That's different from a Martin. And with Martins, I just love that big robust, not too much low end, not too much high end, just right there, just the rainbow. And I'm a little more picky, I think, with acoustic guitar, which you have to be, I guess.
There's so less, there's no pedals, there's no amps, it's wood and strings, and it is what it is.
Yeah. You know? If your question is coming up about the acoustic search, it's always on the hunt for the next greatest acoustic guitar.
Do you do the vast majority of your writing on acoustics or electrics?
Acoustics.
That's where the songs come from.
That's the guitar that sits in the house in a stand, and if inspiration strikes, I grab that. And then later it's like, well, let's see if this translates to the electric guitar.
You got to go do a van tour again. You can only bring 2 guitars with you, one electric and one acoustic. What are you bringing?
That little black Junior and a 1955 J45.
Those 2 will pretty much take care of it all.
They can do it all, and neither one of them is pretty. They do it right.
Time for some acoustics?
Yeah.
Let's take a look.
Oh. Did I miss one? You missed one.
Oh, yeah.
You should know this one.
I sold you this guitar.
You certainly did.
40 or 41?
41.
1941 L00. These are fun guitars.
So good. Loud and good. I don't know what tuning it's in. It's an open tuning. Crystal clear. And guess what? These are the strings that were on it when you sold it to me.
They're still shiny.
I mean, what?
Why put new strings on it? Dead String Club.
Do you remember that? I texted you and said,
that's just the sound, man. That's just what's supposed to be played on it.
I texted you and said, Mark, what are these strings that are on this guitar probably 4 years ago? And you said, I'm not sure. And I don't know why you would know that. That was a stupid
whatever
question.
Our tech put on them, 12 gauge something.
But I don't know if they're the coded jobbies or what, but I've played this guitar tons, and they won't not sound good.
Yeah. Oh, it makes you play a certain way. So here we are, 80 years later, it still sounds like $1 million.
That cool checking and kind of flaminess on the top.
I just love these Firestripe.
Yeah.
Firestripe pick guard's the best.
Yeah, all about the celluloid.
This is not a strummer for you, right? This is a
No.
This is a picker.
I don't think I've ever used a pick on it.
Yeah.
All about fingers. Look how pronounced that script is.
Yeah, and how not pronounced all these angles on the headstock are. Just beautifully worn.
I remember you played one in a video that had a piece of a weird pickguard above it, but it sounded really good.
I vaguely remember that.
I sent you a message and said, man, what about that guitar? And you were like, nah, that ain't the one you want. This is the one you want.
Yeah.
And you were correct.
It is so great. I had a 39, a black one, that I let go a few years ago that I'm starting to question why I did that. They were like $25 when they were new.
Yeah, right.
The best $25 you could have spent in 1941 right there.
Yeah. Mark, you didn't charge me $25.
I was a little more than 25, but, you know, black Gibson logo case, more acoustics.
Somebody loved this one. They put rivets all down the sides and back of the broken.
It's a punk rock case.
It is. Rivets.
Rivets. Oh, yeah. Country and Western.
Both kinds.
Both kinds.
Now, let me ask you, is this a different type of celluloid from that other guitar or same?
This is probably, well, by the 60s, it was probably a little bit different. Although, I don't know, to be perfectly honest. But that color and that striping is, we can't find new non-toxic, non-flammable equivalents of that now.
That's a 63.
1963 Country and Western. New bridge?
New bridge.
Because this would have been an adjustable saddle originally.
I didn't mind that at all. It sounded good. I couldn't put a pickup in it that I liked.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a little bit easier with the fixed saddle. For those of you at home who don't know, this is basically a hummingbird. That's all it is with a different pick guard. It's square shoulder, multiply binding on the top, multiply binding on the back. It's a hummingbird with a different pick guard. Everything else about this is...
Look how thin that pick guard is.
I know, it's super thin.
Crazy.
But yeah, I mean, this is great. I love to actually be able to feel the grain of the wood. Yeah. That's cool. This is...
You can see its innards in there. That's like...
Yeah. This is a live one, studio one.
It's a live one now. It was just a cool sounding one. It's got a lot of low end there.
That's roar.
And I'm going to take it on the road now that it has amplification capability. Just love the binding and the parallelograms. Just the greatest.
Black pebble grain hardshell case. Early to mid 60s. Acoustic.
It's another 63 actually. There's a lot of 63 going on today, but
I think I know what this is and I'm really excited to see it. This might be the coolest acoustic guitar ever made.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The J180 Everly Brothers. Black Starr inlays. Double pick guards.
That's a lot of celluloid.
That is a lot of highly flammable material.
Highly flammable.
Double the amount of highly flammable material as a regular guitar.
Now, this particular guitar belonged to Don Everly.
Wow.
And then it belonged to Graham Nash.
Double wow. How did you get your hands on it?
Texas.
Always Texas.
Odd place for the strap button.
I'm sure it worked at some point. Is that still the only spot for the strap button?
Well, it's the only one that's on it. I'm afraid to
drill anything into it. Just use it like that.
Oh man.
Come on. It's just the coolest guitar ever. The bridge, I don't know who's like, you know what? Screw bridge plate. Let's do a top-mounted bridge on an acoustic guitar. Yeah. But it works. I don't know how it works. It shouldn't, on paper, work.
I forget who had one available, but it was pickguardless.
Well, what's the fun in that?
I was like, not interested.
Yeah, no. It's all about the double guard. And no, the double guard doesn't choke the tone.
I mean, not that one.
It's just the double guard makes it awesome.
It just makes it look fantastic.
If I could put a third pickguard on there,
yeah,
I would, because it's so cool.
There are pictures of the Everly Brothers playing those J200s.
Yeah, that was kind of
what you guys just redid with the big white.
Big white guards on the black ones, yeah.
Is that what those are that you've done now? The J2 big
those are
bodies?
full-on 17-inch. When the 180s came out, it's basically based off the 185 body, so a 16-inch lower bout. But then this bridge design, the double pick guards, which just look like a cool hillbilly chick's, you know, red pigtails. It's just amazing. And Starr inlays.
Yeah.
And the Starr on the headstock. And it's black.
And it's black.
There's no cooler color for a Gibson acoustic guitar than black.
It's like a little tuxedo.
It's just awesome. And this one's out, right? It's got a pickup in it. I'm assuming this one's coming out.
I don't know.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Local, in towns,
Yeah.
maybe?
In town, within 100 miles.
Now, I remember you asking me about these. You probably were looking for one of these for a long time.
Long time.
And you just happened to get Don Everly's.
Long time. I have a blonde one. Beautiful, cherry, back and sides,
right, yeah.
blonde top. Not as cool as this.
It's a black one.
Of course, this was, you know, owned by the dude whose name is on it. So
Also, yeah, very, very cool. I don't know how many of these the Everly brothers owned. I'm sure they probably had a few sets, but this has got to be one of 2 or 3 total that they probably ever owned. So, I mean, and you just can't get that pickguard material anymore.
Yeah.
They never look the same because this is toxic and flammable and not fun for production.
sort of a puffier pickguard than even the country and western.
Yeah.
It's a little puffier.
But man, does it look insane. Pretty much the coolest acoustic guitar of the 1960s right there.
Definitely.
I love it. Man cannot live on Gibsons alone.
No,
It'd be cool if he could.
much as we
I've tried.
Yeah.
Yeah, but occasionally we got to buy some other stuff because it does other things.
Yeah.
This is one of those.
This is also your fault.
Oh, yeah. I know what this is. Oh, yeah. Martin 0021. What year is this?
60.
Still Brazilian rosewood.
Still Brazilian, slot headstock.
If I remember, I was sitting on the couch at Norman's Rare Guitars. You and Keith Nelson walked in, and I was noodling.
You were noodling, and I was like,
you should
oh,
noodle on this.
You did, and you just knew it.
And then
I
left.
Yeah.
And I closed the store down, and about 30 minutes after I left the store, my phone dings, and there was a text message from you going, I don't know what I was thinking. Why didn't I buy that guitar?
How could I leave?
And shortly thereafter, we got it to you.
Yeah.
What's the difference between the Martins and the Gibsons for you, and why do you need to have both?
Well, just a different voice.
Yeah, they're completely different animals.
This one has such the V.
And wide. Yeah, slot heads are going to give you that 1 3/4 nut width. Just makes you play the guitar differently. The spacing's all different.
This one almost sounds like a nylon guitar, just inherently,
Yeah.
and really tight and not thuddy like we love the J45, and even the country and western will have a little bit of the thud. These don't have that. They have that different voice.
Just very, very direct into the note, you know?
Yeah.
The fundamental. And that nice straight grain Brazilian right there.
This one's filthy, by the way. It needs a good bath, but I use this in the studio for Dave Cobb mic'd it from the front and the back.
Mic'd it from the back.
Mic'd the lower bout down there.
Never seen that. What is that?
I think it just made it sound larger. This one's so clean.
It really is. I mean, that's kind of how I remember it looking when I sold it to you.
Yeah.
Just a really nice condition guitar. And I remember you just sitting down playing ragtime stuff on it, and it just sounded exactly how it was supposed to sound.
Celluloid binding.
Tortoise binding?
Yeah.
Love that. So cool.
0021. And a 21, I guess, lies somewhere between 18 and 28.
You got the binding package from an 18, and then you got the rosewood from the 28. And rosewood fingerboard and bridge instead of ebony, which would be on the 28s. But just a killer example, man.
Yeah.
Really.
Thank you.
Really happy that you got that one.
Yeah.
It was supposed to go to you. One Martin's not going to get it done.
No. Got to have its big brother.
Got to have the big brother Martin.
This is a 1950 D28.
Well loved. Now this is a long progression of D28s, you said.
Yeah, I was working my way back.
Yeah.
53, 51, 50. But this is a really good one. It really projects. It's in the Canon variety.
Yeah. As you want them.
It's got a nice,
Really straight green Brazilian on the back.
yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
I got this one. I was like, yeah, now we're talking. This is a Canon. And what my dad has wound up with is an 83. I sat down and was like, Dad, check this out. And he's like, cool. And he grabs his 83 and goes, and it was like Back to the Future when it knocked me back. And I'm like, well, you still win, so I guess I'm going to have to go back into the 30s to beat his 83. But a friend of mine said, well, it makes sense. That was an anniversary guitar for them, 1883 to 1980.
So that's probably scallop braced and forward shifted and all the stuff that,
Yeah. This one, I'm told, belonged to one of the sweethearts of the rodeo girls, that band.
Yeah.
I guess she must have been friendly with Emmylou Harris, because this...
Yes, this case from Emmylou.
It's a guild case, or at least it's got a guild badge on it. Great guitar.
Looks like it might have had a much larger pick guard on it at one time too.
It's like somebody might have done put a little clear on it there or something. But
love when you can actually feel, can feel the growth rings of the tree.
Yeah.
Because it's so well worn. It's like comparing Strats to Les Pauls, comparing Martins to Gibson acoustics.
Yeah.
They're just completely
different.
Completely different animals that you just, if you're going to do it professionally or for real, you kind of just got to have both, you know?
Yeah, these won't do what...
They don't compete with each other.
Yeah.
They're totally different animals, you know?
Absolutely apples and oranges.
I mean, is this a strummer, big strummer for you? This is when you need that Canon flat picker guitar.
Yeah, it doesn't have a pickup. No need for one. I probably won't. It's just, I literally take this to bluegrass pickings that me and my friends have in Georgia from time to time, usually around Christmas. And a good friend of mine in Carrollton, Georgia, that he has some friends that have a couple of pre-war D28s. And I take this and see how it's not as good as those.
It gives you somewhere to go, you know?
It's amazing. I mean, there's always that window of time where people just got it so right that it's so right it's hard to compete with. But 50's good. I'm told that Lester Flatt had a 50 that he preferred.
Well, hey,
so
it's good enough for Lester.
Good enough for Lester. Lester, who invented the G-Rine.
Yeah.
The flat G-Rine.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome, bluegrassers. Yeah, you're welcome. Killer guitar.
Yeah, thank
Great
you.
Brazilian. Let me see the Brazilian on the back again.
Yeah.
Just perfect straight lines.
Yeah.
That's it's the good stuff. Killer. Is condition a factor? I mean, there's some people that's like, oh, wait, it's got to change pot.
Nope.
Nope, can't have it. Oh, wait, it's got to wear on the... Is it, what are you looking for when you pick something up?
Something that I like, stuff that's lived in. And I think it's...
Because it's going to get lived in.
Yeah.
Real quick.
It's such a proven theory that there are so many really clean guitars and really clean amps that might not sound as good or play as good as their player grade counterparts. Or not even if you're using the term player grade as a sort of a negative, something that's been loved. I guess it really does turn out to be the case that a lot of these things have the wear and tear because they do the thing. I was talking to Charlie Daughtry.
Yeah.
And we're talking about a couple of different juniors and a couple of different Firebirds, and I was like, I can't play this guitar. This one doesn't bring me joy because I can't play it because it's impossible to play because the frets are gone, you know.
Yeah.
And he was like, fret it, man. Fret it.
Frets on it.
Do it. Yeah, and I know a couple of people who fretted blackguards. And it was like, do it.
No.
I mean, enjoyment is a big part of it.
They need frets, guys. Put frets on them.
Yeah.
It needs frets, put frets.
Fret it, and you can bend those strings.
There are far worse things you can do to a vintage guitar than put new frets on it.
And I'm lucky enough to know a guy here in Georgia who is just the greatest. Shout out to Stan Williams.
Favorite mom and pop guitar store to stop into when you're on the road?
Oh, there are a few.
Hit me with, where are you going? You're in what city? Where are you going?
Well, Rumble Seat and Carter, always in Nashville, and Gruen guitars. Mike's Music in Cincinnati. Emerald City.
Got to go see Trevor.
Norm's.
No.
Vintage Guitar in Oslo, Norway. They're always great. Denmark Street, good grief. Our buddy Matt's guitar shop there.
Matt Lucas, yeah, absolutely. Man cannot live on Gibson acoustics alone. Can't live on Gibson electrics alone, too. Yeah, it's just a gig bag. Who knows what's in here?
It's
the original Sunburst Tele?
A 1958 Sunburst Telecaster.
Now, that might seem kind of pedestrian to see a Sunburst guitar, but this was only available, 1955 and 1958 were the only 2 years that you could potentially get sunburst on a Telecaster. They're all blonde.
And it kind of makes you wonder, why does it look odd? It's a strange, it's like the synapses in your brain fire in a weird way when you see it that way.
The standard finish on Stratocasters was sunburst, but the standard finish on Telecasters was blonde. But then there's just a few of these, ash body, sunburst. And this is a 58.
Very spanky.
That's stupid. Tell me about this.
Well, this is a Texas guitar.
Yeah. He who shall not be named in Texas.
It's actually a repair. I don't know if I think it was a crack repair. I don't think it was a complete headstock break. Joe Glazer.
Glazer does good work. Fender's headstocks can break too, kids.
Yeah.
This is not a Gibson exclusive issue.
And also, refret. Glazer. Fantastic.
You can just, by looking at the neck, you could just assume that you've had to put some frets on it.
It is extremely spanky, and it just does the thing. And I have looked at that pick guard for hours and thought, is that the original pick guard? And it is. It just...
5-screw.
There's just something about it that makes it...
A little bit of yellow underneath the thing.
The yellowing.
That's a pretty rare and cool guitar right there.
We made a new record with Dave Cobb just a few months ago, and he played it and said, you know, there are times where you might think, I only need one guitar, and this might be it.
That might be one of those one guitars.
Until you plug another one in. But at that very moment, he wouldn't stop playing it. And he was like, this guitar is the only one you need.
Yeah.
Plus it's sunburst. How many colors are going on there?
That's a 3-color burst.
That is 3 colors.
Yeah, you got a little bit of red in there too.
Yeah.
A great ash body. Look at that. Getting grain. Go find another one of those, kids. There's not many of them out there. But they do exist. Blonde case.
Yeah.
62, 3-ish.
63. Another 63 guitar.
Another 63. See a pattern. Oh, yeah. One pickup.
Man, this one came from Rockin' Robin in Houston, Bart. And we were playing this horse race track in Houston years ago. Do you have any Esquires? And he said, boy, do we have a 63 that it's a reef in, but it is the greatest neck you've ever felt.
I concur. That's not too big, but big enough.
It's just
round enough and everything.
It's just like Naugahyde. There's just something that's like
great weight too.
It's really thin. Somebody sanded the hell out of it.
Yeah, it's kind of radiused all around the edges.
But it's so light, it weighs like 6 pounds. And but I plugged it in the day I played it at the show. Okay? Yeah. It spoke to me instantly, and I've used it on tons of songs.
I see you with this guitar all the time.
On the last 3 or 4 records, and I think, you know, people in like comments online are like, you're an idiot, it has nothing to do with physics, but the single bridge pickup with no pickup here, it's a real thing. It's angrier.
Less pull.
Bigger.
Yeah. Science, kids.
Yeah. And I guess it may do less, and no one on earth has ever wanted to use that position right there because it's just mud. Yeah. And I always stay there and just like that.
Use a neck pickup on the Tele anyway. I just want to hear it twang, so you might as well just cut to the chase and just have the one pickup.
I don't know what amp anybody would have plugged it into where they decided that the bass position was
a good idea.
Except for Norman Greenbaum, if you're playing Spirit in the Sky, and then that's perfect. But
fuzz pedal.
This is definitely my favorite Fender guitar.
Yeah, love the clay dots. Clay dots make everything look better.
They do.
Are you Strat guy or just Tellies?
I have never owned a Strat.
Yeah, I have one, but I definitely prefer the Telecasters to the Stratocasters. Who needs the second pickup?
Yeah.
What are we gonna do? Play bass?
Right.
Black case.
This is not the original case to this guitar. I think this is a 67 case.
With the logo on there.
This guitar, the neck says 65, the neck date. Mike's Music, Cincinnati. Love Mike Reeder.
Yeah.
Great friend.
Oh, it's black.
Went into his shop one day with my buddy Benji Shanks. And I said, Mike, do you have any Esquires? He said, boy, do I. Funny, that sounds just like the last
story. Yeah.
And he pulls this out of a pile of guitars.
Love a guitar pile. by the way.
He says,
Stack them up.
He says also, this is a factory black 1965 Esquire. Now, I don't know much about Fender finish, but I said, are you sure? He said, and this is just, I will quote Mike as saying, I believe that this is a factory black.
Which people take that for granted, by the way, because Fender does everything in black. Fender did not do a lot of black guitars.
Yeah.
Black was not a popular color for Fender guitars.
Replaced pick guard. The pots are actually older than 65. I think they're 61 pots.
Which can happen. That's not.
Could have been hanging around the, yeah.
Grabbed in the box and that's what they pulled out.
The thing about this guitar, great neck, different than the 63, even though it's
More shoulder on it.
2 years younger. As we stood there that day and I played it, I think I played it through a Princeton and liked it. He said, take it to the show with you, play it tonight. See you down there later.
Yeah, for payment.
I took it to sound check and I plugged it in through my
Rig.
live rig, and Benji went, oh my God, before I could even react. He was like, man, that's a very harmonically pleasing guitar. And so I was like, well, shit. I called him and he said, I can't make it tonight. Just take that guitar with you. I took it, made a record with it. And at that point it said,
It's probably paid
well, now
for.
I got to have it because I played it on Hey Delilah, which is,
Love that song. One of my favorite Blackberry Smoke songs.
thank you very much. That's that song. And so it was like, well, there you go. Factory black or not.
And by the way, if you work in the vintage guitar business, the easiest close in the world is just, just take it with you and go plug it into your rig. And, if you don't like it, bring it back.
Yeah.
They never come back.
It's the oldest trick.
They never come back. That never once did somebody
Never once.
that I let take a guitar home not buy it. It's like shooting fish in a barrel.
Entrapment.
Yeah. But man, that's the vibe right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I mean, we talked about bursts. Is there anything else on the immediate hit list that you haven't had that you're like, if I find one of these, this is coming home?
Another one that got away the day I met you, I played a really great, is it the Silver Fox or Gray Fox?
Yeah, Silver Fox Cornet.
At Norm's, and it was I remember Norm was going to make me a real good deal on it, and I let it go, and I wish I hadn't. Funny little Batwing headstock.
Yeah, but anything else? I mean, Flying V.
Yeah, Carina guitar, for sure. Those are magical. Magical. Epiphone Frontier.
Love those.
Yeah. A really great White Falcon.
DeArmond or Filtertron Falcon?
DeArmond.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't have that. You were just mentioning to me earlier about a 30s SJ200. Or
Rosewood 200s. Ooh, boy.
I mean, yeah, the list is just never ending. This guitar has never had a case as long as I've owned it, so it's always been in some kind of gig bag, or it's always lived in a guitar vault.
Yeah. Well, this is the last one for the day.
Last
I
one?
told you to bring some stuff with good stories.
This one
got
has
good
good stories.
stories?
When people ask what it is, it's a little hard to explain because it's not a Gibson, it's not a Fender, it's not a Gretsch, it's not anything.
Just slides out.
I'm told.
Look at that.
So there was a great rock and roll band in the late 80s, early 90s called the Four Horsemen, one of my favorite bands. And the rhythm guitar player, main songwriter, Haggis, he was in the
Great name.
He was in Zodiac, Mind Warp, and the Love Reaction, and then he was in the Cult. Yeah. And then he formed the Four Horsemen, and they were just this great four-on-the-floor rock and roll band. And he said that he went to Performance Guitars.
Cooney, yeah.
And he said, I bought 2 blank bodies and necks and had 2 guitars built, and they were both single pickup guitars. And he said one had a Filtertron and one a Soap Bar P90. And he took those on the road. This was number 2. That's his.
That makes sense.
His numbering system. He was in Los Angeles making a record with Rick Rubin, their debut album. And he said, I was driving through a neighborhood and I drove past this man's house that he had a little wood carving shop. And he said, I had this guitar in the back seat of my car. And he said, I pulled over and he said, he had all these examples of like no trespassing, beware of dog. So he said, I got out, went up and knocked on the door and said, can you do a guitar? And the man said, yeah, I'm sure I can. So he said, I went and grabbed this guitar out of the back and he said, it was number 2. Well, he wished it had been number 1. But he took it in and he said, the man said, what do you want on it? And he said, just whatever you want. So that guy, freehand, threw this on. I think he said he did it for $200. And it's heavy.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is. You know what this is? This wood?
I don't.
Because it's, yeah, man, it's...
Is it alder?
It might be. It's heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of looks like alder.
The neck has been shaved. It's very thin.
It's skinny.
My friend who sold me that Black Junior that I love so much, he owned this guitar. He was in a band in Atlanta called Voodoo Piston. He wound up getting this guitar from Haggis in the early 90s, and he put the Dan Electro pickup in it.
So we got one P90 and one lipstick Dan Electro.
Every time he played that guitar, I just coveted it.
Yeah.
And lusted after it. And I would say, Ted, you got to sell me that guitar, the Haggis guitar. No way, dude, no way. I'd bide my time a little, wait till he got in a really good mood. Come on, Ted, sell me that Haggis guitar. Shut up, dude, no way, never. And then finally one day, it was sort of like, he's like, I need to talk to you. And I'm like, here it comes, oh my God, here it comes. And he said, with the understanding that it goes nowhere else, ever, I'll sell you that guitar.
When was that? How long have you had it?
2004, maybe.
Almost 20 years now you've had this thing.
In the age of MySpace, Haggis contacted me. And he's long since quit the music business. And
yeah.
What a character, what a great story, and what a super intelligent dude, very funny, very clever. He's a doctor. And he said, thanks for playing that guitar, man. Thanks for keeping it doing what it needs to be doing, which is playing rock and roll music.
Yeah.
So
when does this come out?
Every record we've ever made.
This is on?
The black guitar and this guitar are on every record.
Do you ever use it in the middle with the lipstick? What's that tone like?
It's very special. It's very...
I've never heard those two together.
Very bell-like. You don't really get as much of this. This kind of takes over. This gives it a little bit of bite where this doesn't have. It's not a bright guitar at all. Even that P90 is fairly dark.
That's a lot of wood, man.
Yeah, you can really dig into it, and it ain't gonna be harsh to your ears. But logic would tell you this guitar shouldn't sound good because it weighs so much and there's not much neck left. But I mean, Jimmy Page would shave his burst neck and it still sounded great. So.
What a great way to end, man. That is a great story.
The number two.
Number two. Haggis.
Haggis.
Oh, Charlie.
Mark.
Epic day of looking at guitars, man. Thank you for having us out.
You guys are always welcome at our clubhouse.
Compound or Flash Museum.
Yeah.
We've got this whole Blackberry Smoke display.
We like to hang out and just ponder our history, Mark. That's what we do.
What's the history of this? There's a samurai sword.
You talking about this?
Yes.
This deadly weapon right here?
Yeah.
It was my birthday. We were on the road. That's an authentic flea market samurai sword.
There's a pretty recognizable smudge on that as well.
You know why that's recognizable? It's because that is Travis Tritt's autograph. You're not gonna not get Travis Tritt's autograph
on your martial arts
on your flea market Shinzo blade.
Dude, thank you again for having us. Always a pleasure to see you. Always a pleasure to hang. I'm Mark Agnesi for Gibson TV. See you guys next time on another episode of The Collection. Peace.